Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Ops Oops Origami. It is March 27th, 2022.
March 27th. Hardly seems possible.
Yep. Skipped last week because I was unavailable. It was my turn to be down in Jamaica, and just didn't work out schedule wise. So I've already committed myself to something else at the same time, not thinking about time zones. So
I felt your pain.
yep. Well, see, now it's the same. I was thinking because right now they're the same time we are.
Right.
Because they normally align with Eastern, but they don't do daylight savings. So
Fun, because then they're going to be aligned with us forever. Then.
yeah, well, good point.
So actually,
Provided it passes.
provided it passes the House, and
Yeah.
I think the base bill has every reasonable shot at passing. I think that because it is the most likely to get a huge amount of bipartisan support, it will be the bill most likely to have every bit of pork and excess spending tacked onto it that you can imagine. And
For something that should cost $0 and is basically flipping a switch as far as they're concerned, it's going to
they're
be
going to
a
make it cost
multi-billion-dollar.
right. For
You're
some
not,
reason,
you're not
we
wrong.
will buy like six extra wings of F-22s. We'll buy some Russian aircraft carriers because we want to have some. I don't know.
They have to be everything has to be non daylight savings time compliant.
Right.
So
And then we'll buy a bunch of corn. Yeah. So if it survives that process, I think it's got a shot at going through. It'll be, if you want to see how messy our political system is, really, I think that's the way to go. Oh, we have a question about what we're drinking.
yes, Michael, I'm drinking Red Rabbit. Good guess.
I am drinking Jameson Black Barrel.
That is quite
Irish
tasty as
whiskey.
well.
It is Irish whiskey being one of my go-tos. I'm celebrating.
Nice.
I'm celebrating some fun news for me. I start a new job tomorrow, so good times.
That should be interesting.
It should be. I have to be there at 8 a.m. So
Okay.
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no. New adventures, right? Onward and upward. Well, let's talk about daylight savings for a second. How much of a pain is it going to be for congratulations, Michael, on celebrating 65.
Is it today? Is it today, Mike?
So yeah, daylight savings. Obviously computer systems are going to be relatively fine, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a software patch, but they're basically all the vast majority.
It's going to be a
computer systems-
software patch for pretty much everything.
right? There might be a few system boards and things like that that need some kind of funky BIOS update, but they'll adapt. There is a bunch of hardware out there though that doesn't have that capability. At best, it's going to be some kind of load something onto external media, so that you can update firmware or BIOS or something like that. And worst case, it's just not going to support it.
Yeah, but it's anything important is going to support it. It should be fine. I think everybody learned their lesson when everything shifted by, what was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah. And you'd hope, right? You'd hope that they had learned something, but I'm not convinced. I'm not sure what like transfer switches on generators are going to have to go through. I hope that like companies like Generac and Eaton have their stuff together, but
no, that stuff should be using daylight savings time anyways. GMT, figure it out.
Yes. But still, some of them are. I mean, I know my clock radio from like circa 1982 is not going to adapt.
No.
But I'm not real worried about it.
Well, I had one that it did the radio time updating, and that when the daylight savings time changes moved a decade ago, that thing basically became worthless because now I went from never having to change the time zone to have to change it 4 times a year. That was fun.
Amazing. So yeah, I'll be interested to see. Like I actually, I am somewhat of a DST purist. I think that standard time is it's nice when the sun is directly overhead at noon, which happens if you are at the beginning of your time zone. But apart from that, you know, I think the choice to stay on, you know, daylight savings time permanently is probably the right one. It makes sense for business, particularly in the winter and the summer months. And like, why are we messing around with this anymore?
Yeah, I think everybody can agree that it's just a dumb idea. It serves no purpose anymore to keep flipping back and forth. Pick one, stick with it, whatever.
What I did not
switch
realize
to what was it? The Timex. Oh, they tried to do like late 90s, early 2000s.
was
They
it
tried
some
to
kind of
do like
weird
a
decimal
universal
time or
time
something.
thing. Yeah, it wasn't quite decimalized. It wasn't completely decimalized, if I remember right. But there was no time zones or anything anymore. Oh, I can't remember. It had some dumb name. I can't remember it offhand now, but that just made me think of it.
Oh, I'm gonna find out because I want to know. Maybe not.
I think it was Swatch.
Yep, no idea. Tune in next week for an update on the Timex or Swatch time standard.
Swatch Internet Time.
What could go wrong?
It was based off the French Revolutionary Decimal Time System. Each beat is a minute and 26.4 seconds. Because that is a nice round number. Okay, 1,000 seconds a day. Well, 1,000 beats a day.
Fair enough. So decimal time
is just a 3-digit number. Yeah.
See, in me, if I'm going to go decimal time, because like I don't mind complex math every once in a while, I totally go like 1 year is our starting point, and everything gets based from there.
10 months, each with
10 months,
36 days.
Nope, with either 10 or 100 days, and yes, day barriers would fall at odd times. Like, you know what? It's software, man. Set your alarm clock. Like, oh, but like if I'm not going into 8:30, how will I survive? Like, you know what? You go, you do your job. If you're hourly, go ahead and, you know, punch your clock for whatever the hour equivalent is or minute equivalent. Or just go fractional days.
Yeah, it would be difficult to decimalize days just because the year length is too tied to non-decimal things, actual physical phenomena. the same as like the length of a day. I mean, you could do a weird length of a year, 10 days in a week, 10 weeks in a 10 weeks in a month would be a little odd. But
I mean, so there's
10 weeks in a quarter.
87,000.
10-day weeks in a quarter.
That is not what I wanted from you, Windows. Grr. Misleading me. There it is. So, there's 8,760 hours in a year. So, if you kept roughly the same standard hourly work schedule, you would work oh, yeah, it's gone off the rails for me.
Yeah.
You would work some obnoxious fraction of like 9 1,000ths of a year or something like that.
You never try and do math live, and you never try and pronounce a name the first time live.
Oh, but the joy. Believe me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try both today.
Oh.
That actually brings me to, hey, there he is.
Hey, welcome.
W2K, what today about time and the awfulness of clocks? Nothing.
I think he's still getting set up there.
Yeah, still getting dialed in. Now we're good.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Good.
So, what with your handle? I feel like you should have something to say about time and clocks.
Time and clocks, yes. I remember when I think it was under just probably coincidentally Bush Jr. changed the daylight savings time. I think we changed it 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We shortened it by 2 weeks. I remember that being worse than like the Y2K scare. Like I remember changing registry entries for days.
The interesting thing about the Y2K scare was it was telegraphed so much and so far in advance people were terrified of it. So like they got on board really marshaled forces, whereas like the daylight savings change, like, well, it's just a configuration change. Well,
yeah,
there wasn't this huge of resources thrown at it. And yeah, it was a mess.
Well, the hype train was overload on Y2K. Oh no, grandma's life support is going to stop working at midnight, and just stupid shit like that. All the trains are going to crash. Airplanes are going to fall out of the sky. Really? Why do you think any of those things would happen?
Well, because I don't think
it's easy to test.
It was still, because that was back when like the internet was still like in its infancy, right? People didn't fully like understand it. So
I mean, interesting enough, it's also back when they actually had a shot at understanding the software running on things.
Yeah. And now it's even less.
Right.
Yeah. Another 22 years of code on top of code.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me if there's somebody working at Microsoft right now that actually understands what's under the hood in .NET.
No, that's why every patch breaks something.
Right.
Because it's hobbled together code, poorly documented, that a team wrote 20 years ago and has been built on over and over and over.
Right.
And no one in between teams actually knew everything. At some point, when they were originally building out whatever it was, I'm sure there was some dude that knew everything, but he's long since retired, so
Yep.
Nobody really has the time to completely get up to speed, especially if it's kind of a legacy product. It's just tack something together that fixes whatever this particular bug is. It doesn't really matter if it breaks something else. I mean, preferably not, but they don't seem to put that priority into it. They just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah.
I mean, the paradigm in software development is, like, for initial development, is minimum viable product, which, let's step back to, say, 1995. If you put out minimum viable product to anything like a large customer base, you'd be out of business. They didn't want your minimum viable product. They wanted a well-developed, well-thought-out, well-tested piece of software. Today, we're way more tolerant for, like, hey, I'm your beta tester because I use your product. Like, and A/B testing is fine. Like, don't get me wrong. We get stuff faster now, but
but when they roll it out as this is finished and you're basically beta testing until Service Pack 2, maybe 3.
If they, like, I mean, cloud services, right? It's always beta.
Yeah.
I just realized I'm the placement today with my Red Robin water cup and my Milwaukee Irish Fest zip up here. So,
Well, you're so grainy, nobody can read it anyways.
Sweet. I had suspected as much based on what I'm seeing from both of you. I'm like, this has got to be me.
I can count the pixels on one hand.
Yeah.
Yes. Sweet.
You look like an impressionist painter.
Here's left hand, here's right hand. Yeah, it's good stuff.
They're happy mistakes.
Yeah. Well, once I get rolling on the new job, I'll be updating the internet connection. The problem is, like, none of the internet service providers are actually reliable. So
yeah, it's pretty rough. I get multiples.
That's where I'm headed.
Spectrum Business Class, and then I have the T-Mobile 5G as a backup.
I'm actually thinking about going Spectrum, and I'm going to sign up for drawing a blank. Elon Musk's toy.
Starlink.
Starlink. I'm going to sign up for Starlink, see what happens. Like, is it going to be as good as, like, terrestrial or cellular? Probably not, but I think it'll be consistent.
Give it another year. I mean, it also is still kind of in beta. I mean,
right.
We're at about the third of the satellites that they actually want up there. I don't know if the laser links are up and operational now, at least not production.
Yeah.
So we're getting there.
Yep. So to jump topics, I said that I was going to try to pronounce a name. I wanted to talk about Microsoft's news from almost a week ago now, confirming their lapsus breach.
Oh, was that the 37 gigs of source code?
Yeah.
Various projects.
Yeah. Somebody got in, compromised a set of credentials, grabbed a bunch of source code, and I'll give Microsoft props. They said, yeah, it's not really a problem because we don't view secrecy of source code as part of our security landscape, which, way to go. Like, security through obscurity, not a thing.
They know the right answer. Do they actually mean it, however?
That's the real question, right? But apparently, out like within the last couple of days, one of the guys behind the lapsus ring is a 16-year-old living in England.
Yep, got busted.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I, since I have some security network guys that I talk to on a semi-regular basis, I wanted to get your take. What do you think? What does this make the industry do, if anything, different? It's a high-profile credential hack, right? Clearly, the people that were hacked, both at Microsoft and Okta, had access to things that you'd probably rather not have out.
The Microsoft one was related to the Okta?
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that Lapsus managed to compromise in relatively short order both Okta and Microsoft.
Okay.
Like, those are two big players that both theoretically claim to be good at security.
Yeah, because I had read, I don't know if it was verified yet, but what I had read earlier in the week, because I've been kind of out of the loop, but was that it was speculated that it was a contractor leak.
Okay.
So it was basically
Like a mole
contractor. Well,
or a
somebody
lazy.
paid enough money to accidentally.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's happened a couple of times to Microsoft because they heavily rely on contractors.
Oh
They
yeah.
do.
They churn through them so fast.
Yeah. Churn and burn.
Where all it takes is one that wants a little extra payday, and
Yep.
there you go. Because these groups will pay good money for
Yeah.
0 days.
Sure. Actually, that brings me to another thing that I wanted to talk about. Like, and I didn't think about this in the context of contractors, but like, how do you make sure you can be successfully offboarded from a company? It's near and dear to my heart and my thinking right now because I just went through it. Like, as IT professionals, what should we be doing to make sure that we can be offboarded easily, safely, and amenably, right? Like, what are you doing for yourself to make sure that, if they walk in tomorrow and tell you, thanks for your service, have a nice day, that you're not going to be super upset. B, that they're not going to suddenly wake up 2 weeks from now and really, really wish they hadn't let you go or be cursing your name for other reasons. And, I guess what else, are there other considerations in that offboarding process from a, like, an ethics and a personal or career longevity standpoint?
Well, theoretically, any company, if they have all their documentation in place and you have all your run books for everything, and everybody that needs to know how to do things has been cross-trained, and so if somebody gets hit by a bus, there's never any issues. So if companies do all of those things and none of them do all of them, some of them might do some of them poorly. If they were doing everything that they're supposed to, it wouldn't even ever really be an issue. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Right.
That's never the case though.
Well, that's never the case. I mean, I would say it's best effort. I mean, assuming that it's you giving notice so that you can move on.
Mm-hmm.
You doing best effort to transition all that knowledge that you
Sure.
have to somebody, assuming that somebody's willing.
Yeah.
And management actually makes those opportunities. Because otherwise, and if it doesn't happen, it's kind of
that's not
on
on
them
you.
at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
And say they let you go, well, too bad, so sad. My obligation ends at that point.
I mean, I'll say this: if you are in any kind of operations position, if you are a company letting someone go in an operations position, I don't care how confident you are, it probably behooves you to A, give them a separate severance package, a reasonable severance package, and B, make that severance package contingent on their reasonable cooperation in an offboarding process, whether that be a day, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. And obviously, like, that severance package better be commensurate with, like, the length of time that you want them to participate in offboarding.
And the expectations for doing. Yeah.
Right.
It should at least be consultant kind of rates.
Correct.
For that period.
Correct. Or effectively that, right? Like, if you want them to stay on for 2-3 weeks to assist with the transition, you'd better be giving them the equivalent of like 3-4 months
Yeah.
of pay, which ultimately works
We'll
out
pay
to
in benefits.
consultant rates, right? Yeah. And probably a commitment to report to anybody that calls. Yes, yeah, they absolutely still work here. Like that good recommendation component, right? Because it's always easier to find that job when you have one.
Yeah, it is.
So, like, if you want somebody, if you're a company, you want somebody to participate in that kind of effort, you really want to make sure that deal goes well for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we've tapped my vault.
I mean, you see, like a lot of companies are taking the stance where if you have any sort of privileged access, they all of a sudden think that you're going to turn into, the Kraken and drag down the whole ship as you depart. I have, I know, as just in the industry, I mean, we have privileged access to beyond a typical employee.
Well,
if we wanted to, we could probably wreak havoc. But I've never even heard even second, third, kind of through the grapevine of someone doing that. That's like
it is pretty rare.
Pretty rare, and that's like a career.
It is a career ender. Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Word gets around.
I don't get why you would. I mean, unless you're super vindictive, but I understand that. Well, yes, there's probably a 99.99% chance that everything's going to be fine. But companies, you see, you give you 2 weeks, and it'll be like, all right, we'll pay you 2 weeks out, and we're going to cut your access off.
Yeah.
Thanks, have a nice day. Which is, I'll give that a little bit of a, I can see that being a little bit of a slap in the face. If you've been there for any period of time.
From the company standpoint, I understand. So the behavior I understand from the company standpoint is when they are letting you go, or honestly, when you give your notice, for them to say, thank you, you're done for today, and sending you home, right? For them to like shoot themselves in the foot and say, yeah, you're done forever. Like, we're not going to try to gather any information from you. That's just silly, right? Because if you take the stance of go on home, have a nice rest of your day, come on back tomorrow, we'll talk more, right? Like, now you've got your window of time to, okay, shut down their account, build them a new user account, or pull all access except for basic user access, whatever it might be, so that you can bring them back safely. And if you can't do that with people, then you really, and I will say I've worked for companies where I've been responsible for stuff like this. And, there's lots of pulls. You're not always perfect at it, but one of the focuses should be that you should always be able to pull critical access from somebody quickly, right? So that you can bring them back in the event that you want them to, in the event you need to offboard them in a reasonable, sane way and not lose all their information.
Yeah, and it's something, I think generally if someone's parting amicably, even if you are going to pull their account access, just get them on the phone afterwards. Hey, how does this work? Just to have them there, almost like a
consultant.
Like a consultant. It's kind of like, hey, how does this thing work? I think most people are, because I haven't really seen a whole lot where people are just kind of destroying the place on the way out the door.
Right.
I've had seniors of me in the past part, and then we've just called them. I mean, afterwards, how does this
Right.
work? And I don't know. It's just, I think that's where the probably the separation of the absolute
Sure.
psychopathy of how organizations can work versus the individual.
I mean, I will
person.
say that organizations that decide that, like, when you give notice, they're suddenly going to slam the door because they're worried about what you're going to do. Like, if said person was going to do something, it's already done.
It's already done. Yeah, the time bomb has been set. Yes.
Right? Like, if they're the kind of person that can put enough thought and framework into planting some kind of time bomb or considering
Dead man
something
switch.
malicious, that
yeah.
or even deciding even not even a dead man switch. If they were going to wreck the place, they'd do it.
Yeah.
They did. It would have been done already. Not when you're looking.
Yeah.
And
just hire better people, for Christ's sake. You think that's what kind of employees you have running around the shop?
Right. If you're
Hire better people and treat
about
them well.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and given the amount of power that IT people have, it does make me wonder about the way that we pay them, right? Like, even some relatively entry-level admins have a lot of access, right?
Yeah. In many places more than they should, just because
Sure,
that's the easy route.
Right. If you have a person that has enough access to take your system offline, essentially to cause you multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of damage, and they're worried about their credit card debt, maybe you're not paying them enough. And I appreciate that they may not have gone to school as long as you, and they may be like 15 years younger than you, and like all of those factors that go into things. But you know what? Same thing goes with cops. Like, if we're not paying cops really well, like that's a person who's got the power of life and death riding on their hip every day. If they're worried about credit card debt or like whether or not their family's going to be able to make ends meet that month, like something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah. Because that leads them to make poor decisions.
Because they're thinking about other things than what they should be thinking about.
Or open to corruption. I mean,
yes.
Chicago, New York.
There's actually a pretty good body of research that indicates that if you are under financial strain, you make all kinds of decisions much more poorly than if you are not under financial stress.
Yeah.
Same
Even
person.
Completely unrelated to the finances, you're still making
Correct.
poor decisions.
So, yeah, I mean, and who doesn't want to be paid more, right? But I think in the industry, we can't realistically say, oh, well, we don't need to provide our IT staff with this level of access. You know what? Some of them are going to have it because these are not systems you can operate with no knowledge. So, like it or not, we have a skill that very few people apparently do, right? Like, we understand the tool, and the guy that knows how to fix the tool is worth a lot of money when the tool is broken. It's like heart surgeons understand the tool that pumps blood through your body. You pay those guys a lot of money when that tool is breaking down.
On the money thing, I mean, there's been plenty of studies where inflation set aside, where you get to a point where you don't have to think about money anymore, and your bills are paid. I mean, you're not swimming in gold coins or anything like Scrooge McDuck or whatever, but you're okay, and you don't have to think about money. And then it becomes, well, what, more like job satisfaction than like dealing with the grind to just get another dollar. So,
right. generally speaking, I would say that people that are dissatisfied with their job, and I have no data to back this up, but my assumption is that people that are dissatisfied with their job, but their financial needs are met and perhaps a little bit exceeded, those people are not the people that are prone to, say, large amounts of graft or malicious, significantly malicious action, right? Like, you understand what it is to be comfortable. And I don't care how long you've been working, you probably haven't been so long that you can't remember what it was to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to be back there, right?
Yeah. A little bit of the gold handcuffs going on, too.
It is liberating to not be working paid to check to paycheck anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think it's shocking how ethical the majority of IT people are. Like, as a cross section of humanity, I would compare us to salespeople, right? Now, granted, sales.
I wouldn't.
I mean, sales attracts a certain.
To contrast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, sales definitely attracts a certain type of person that, like, your mindset has to be a specific way to go into sales. I don't know that mindset necessarily makes you more prone to less ethical behavior, but in my experience, there are a lot more salespeople willing to play in the gray area, we'll say, than there are IT people.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, because the optic doesn't line up. The optic for someone in sales is, well, I have, either base plus unlimited commission or all commission, and I'm always looking to, seal that deal today. The work I'm doing today is to seal the deal for tomorrow. Well, I think if you're part of any infrastructure,
there is no deal to seal. Yeah,
there's no deal to seal, and our timeline is far longer. So we're looking at, well, we're planting the seeds and building the foundation for years ahead, rather than just the tomorrow. Can I get through?
And the salesperson never has to deal with the follow up. They can sell whatever.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
They can blatantly lie about the product, and
they can.
Deal got signed.
Yeah.
And the salesperson that blatantly lies about the product may close that deal, but they're never going to close another one with that customer, right?
Oh, no.
And I've known the salespeople that totally will blatantly lie to seal the deal, but I've also known salespeople that won't, that are, like, apparently strongly ethical, and they make more money because they can go back to the same font over and over again. And customers that learn to appreciate that salesperson, you end up with this great loyal customer base. So I never really thought about that. That salespeople that take the long view end up being more ethical. But in my experience, that's been true. Granted, there aren't a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, they take a long view because they're more concerned about the follow up. I mean, it's all kind of wrapped in together.
Right. Like a lot of sales things, like if you're a committed salesperson, frequently things like reorders end up being like you get a portion of your commission, right? Like there's residual income from those things. And some salespeople are like, whatever, residual is fine. I'm not going to be here that long, whatever it is. But savvy salespeople recognize that, like, those residuals can form a significant portion of your income over time. Like if you're going to get 2 or 3 years of residuals, the work you did 2 years ago, plus the work you did last year, plus the work you're doing this year, like that can be some pretty sweet coin for not a ton of work.
Yeah, keep paying dividends. Well, in the future,
kind of keep the, the locomotive going. It's hard to get going, but once you're there, it's kind of autopilot.
Right. Like, what's it take to get a customer to reorder from you?
Yeah.
Take them out to lunch.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they've already gone through the effort of vetting you as a vendor. They've decided your prices are decent. If your prices haven't gone wildly out of whack, your prices are probably still pretty decent. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't have time to hunt for new vendors if I can help it. So yeah.
So with your offboarding, your unusually long offboarding.
I am a rare.
I mean,
duck.
I get it was 3 weeks instead of 2. It's not anything dramatic, but I mean, did they take full advantage? Do you feel that they got everything out of you that they needed to?
So, do I think they got everything out of me that they needed to? No. And let me be clear. I don't along the offboarding process. They're never going to. It's impossible, right? Like,
do you think
they
think they got everything they needed out of you?
Nope.
That is a different question. Okay.
Right. So here's the thing. I think that any sane, reasonably intelligent person recognizes that, I worked for the company for 8 years, right? You can't condense 8 years of entrenched trouble, whatever kind of knowledge you want to talk about, down to a couple of weeks, right? You also, you can talk about your top level projects, but you think about what it takes to train somebody up to do work that you've been doing. They may be incredibly skilled, but there's going to be like a 2 to 3 month transition period just to bring them up to speed on one particular effort, right? If you're working in IT today, you're probably going to have at least 3 or 4 actively functional projects. Maybe not all at the same delivery point, but you're going to have some initial projects. You have some stuff that's in the early stages, some in the mid stage, some in the late stage. And if you're in an organization that's understaffed, many of them are, you're going to have more. So again, you can't condense what would ultimately be, 3-4 months of side-by-side work and picking up into 3 weeks, particularly when considering it being times 4. And those people still have to do their job, yours now.
Yeah.
Right? The burden is awful. The point to me of giving good notice and making yourself available for those things is they're going to spend some time wrapping their head around it. And then you need to give them enough time to be able to continue to do their job in something like a non-stressful way and still have time to work through offboarding stuff. I think that they took a good advantage of the time they had. I don't think it was as fully realized as it could have been. I've been through this twice where I've given notice and they availed themselves of some of the time. And I would say that this was the better of the two. And in both situations, I went into the giving notice with a list of things that I thought needed to be addressed, so it could be handled well. I've also actually dealt with boarding other staff while I've been employed in places. I've written offboarding process 4 or 5 times, and whether it's me being offboarded or someone else being offboarded at a place that I'm working, I've given it a fair amount of thought. It's really hard to get all the information, but I feel like they did okay. And I'll let you know if I end up working for a company that knocks it out of the park.
Take notes.
Well, for valuable employees are valuable for a reason, and you're never going to be able to. You can't make a documentation to replace someone who's valuable.
Right.
They're just, the talent's there for a reason. So
Right.
I guess I don't know how you copy that.
Yeah. One of the things that I've done both times I gave notice is at the end of my offboarding period, I hand them a billing contract. Like, here's your billing rates. Here's what you can do with me for the next 2 months, right? And I'll be honest, like, I'm giving away some stuff, largely because I've never been in a situation where I'm leaving a company and I just hate my team members. So like, while I am absolutely moving to what I think is going to be a better thing, I understand that I'm leaving behind people that I appreciate and I want to succeed as well. And I've been in the situation where people are like, well, they're gone now. We can't call them. Like, why? Well, they moved on. They like, that's not okay. Like, I communicate to them, you know what? If you got a 5-minute question, you go ahead and call me. And maybe I can't take that in the middle of the workday at my new employer, but I'm going to have a lunch hour and I'll talk to you for 5 minutes and give you some info.
Or
Please do. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and so I want to make clear, like, hey, I am available to you. Heck, in my first month or two at any new job, I'm not going to be fully engaged. You just can't up that quick, right? Like, you're going to have downtime. You're going to have like some free time. If your old company wants to take advantage of that and pay you for it, absolutely. Like,
yeah,
they
it
just
really like reeks
your
of like
priority isn't them.
like reeks of a tribal mentality. Like, you are not part of this tribe anymore.
It does.
So
It does.
you are not part of us. So therefore you
betrayed us.
You don't exist, or you betrayed us. You left. So that's it.
And I've seen, like, I've observed that in some of the impetus in certain occasions, but I've also observed it from a very much benevolent standpoint, where like, well, they're trying to get onto their new thing. They're we don't want to take advantage. We don't want to bug them, whatever. Like, I think the paradigm needs to shift, right? Like, I'm not saying that you should ever expect it of somebody, right? But I think that as IT people, when we leave, we should probably expect it of ourselves. We all have knowledge that we're not going to be able to transfer. Like, I guarantee you, I thought about it for a while, but I guarantee you there's like 6 or 7 things, relatively important things that I forgot.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to remember them. But my coworker, my former coworker, I'm going to come across them in the next like month or two. And you can either struggle for several hours and maybe get it worked out, or you can just pick up the phone and have a 5-minute conversation with somebody that theoretically you appreciate and like, you know what? Let's, call me. I'll give you the 5-minute answer, and then we'll talk for 10 more minutes about my new job, how things are going, where you're at. Like, fine. Like, let's be decent humans.
And I'll bill you for an hour and everyone's happy.
Right. Well, and I assure you, my billing rate for that time period for an hour is really low because I don't want it to be an obstacle to them calling me. I just want to make it apparent that I don't work, like, I'm not your employee anymore. Now I'm your contractor. And my billing rates are progressive. So like, first they're low. First month they're middling. Second month they're moderate. And after that we renegotiate, and then I'm a full-on contractor. If you still want my work, I'm absolutely happy to do so, but you're going to pay me full contractor on my schedule. So it's just like, that's my approach to being a decent human and a decent professional.
most of the people I've worked with, you can tell where there's like you learn something from someone, and then like there's a between the like class of engineers or whatever are generally really good to each other, but when the corporate interests get involved, it's a I don't know what you call you poison the well a little bit.
I mean, you get marching orders, mandates from higher up folks, like, well, make sure you do this or make sure you don't do that, and it can poison the well. I just like if I could give a message to that level of staff. Hey, Michael.
That's an interesting look.
Yeah, it's very fitting. Very fitting for you.
It's very almost Muppets.
Yes.
Or a music video.
Oh,
yes,
good
from
call.
the 90s.
Also very ambient noisy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, we can hear everything.
Well, I got it. My audio was so low on this crappy PC, I plugged it into the jack on the mixer, right? So I'm downstairs, and like when I first hit it, it's like, whoa, because I was in concert mode earlier. So it was like, woo! And you got a nice low voice there, Jesse. You can do radio.
Oh, thanks, I think.
Yeah.
Even coming through these little cheap Chinese special MPAW, even though I've had very good success with these MPAW Chinese special headsets.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that's
Ooh.
It's probably better that you
Yeah.
but I had quite a few opinions on it.
You got a green screen or something going on? What?
No, why? Is it like cutting it out?
Oh no, just because it's like
very dark.
We see head and arms. Everything else
is
just...
I'm wearing a black shirt, and I got a black. Let's see, should I turn it a little bit?
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Stone Cold Austin over here.
I mean,
not sure that's much better.
It was an interesting look. I was just wondering if it was intentional or not.
Well, no, originally I was doing some mixing over here, and I had the camera facing that way. I want to be able to see the compressor because I'm doing a mix, right? So I thought, well, I'll sit over there, and then the stool was like a foot off the floor, and I can't sit over here. So I moved everything over here, and then I had the black curtain, I had the black shirt, and I thought, this ought to be good. It'd be like a ghost.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was like, yeah.
Cool.
Just floating head in a black space. It was kind of an interesting look.
And this is a slow device, it took a while to make the video work, and then the audio was cheesy, it's like, all right, I'll fix this. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're still getting a lot of background noise off you.
Really? All the bass.
It's like the microphone is like 50 feet away from you.
It's actually on the PC, but
that's just
it's probably half of it.
I could sit closer. All right. Any better?
About the same.
Yeah.
You're fine. It's not the end of the world.
No, you don't want to hear what I got to say anyways. I was about to throw an opinion at you about, usually when I leave, it's both fingers up.
And that's what we love about you, Mike.
Yes.
You got a question. You should have asked it before. Especially if you give them a notice, right? But I do agree with Jesse. There is no, you got a key guy. There's no doc that's going to replace him. You can sit there for a month, and it's never good enough.
It should have been happening the entire time.
So to me, it's not about it being good enough. It's the difference between it being something and nothing, right?
Well,
because something, like the difference between something and nothing is infinite. The difference between something and everything is the difference between some percentage and 100.
You
right?
should have been hanging
So-
out closer and learning as you went along, because you can't learn everything at once. And most certainly in this condition like where Jesse is, they don't want to listen to him. So they're never going to learn. But yet,
Sure.
you sit with a guy like Brian, you learn every time he opens his mouth.
Yeah, but here's the thing: are you ever going to be able to learn everything Brian's got to tell you?
You can't do it. It's
No.
I won't
impossible.
ask unless I can.
Yeah.
I write every.
But that's the thing. It's like, but it almost seems to like, if you have someone where they are that critical to the operation,
Right.
it's not that they're, for all their positives or negatives, may have not documented something or not learned something. Maybe everybody else on the team sucks,
Yeah.
and nobody else wants to ask them questions.
Well,
Or
you
take-
know. Yeah.
Take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, we have.
I already wear enough hats. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
Our
Right.
examples are pretty
Yeah.
much come from the same place, though, Jesse. You know, we can show characters that ridiculously abuse the fact that they know something that you don't, and they hold it over you. Doofus was like that all the time, right? There was no gain, there's no document anywhere that you'll ever learn from that. So what do you do with it? You know, you build it yourself, right? Now you should feel bad when you leave because you did what? You took some knowledge with you that the jackass didn't have for himself? Never. That creates the attitude that you have almost everywhere you go from that day forward.
Well, I'm not saying you should feel bad for taking knowledge with you when you leave. I just think that you should provide them the opportunity to collect knowledge from you if they want to take that opportunity.
Right.
Correct. And you know, even if you depart and they don't do that stuff and there's something missing, it kind of goes back to, well, you know, this probably has, you didn't learn your lesson when I was here,
Right.
so you're pissed off about
Yeah.
that, and you're probably learning a lesson that you just don't, you're taking the medicine that you don't want to take. But that's sometimes in life, that's just too damn bad.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that many of the same issues arise with the other thing I was tentatively going to talk about was taking vacation.
yeah,
How that works at different places, and
yeah,
but one of the issues with that is also this exact same thing: the knowledge transfer, the other people that are able to do at least parts of your job, at least good enough for you to be able to take vacation and not be bugged.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
agreed.
Yeah. If you're in a situation where you can't go on vacation without being bugged, like that's a sign, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And I would put, you know, that is something also a not completely, but self-inflicted wound where,
it can be, right?
yeah,
Maybe there are people capable there and you're just not transferring knowledge correctly, right? Maybe there aren't capable people there, but you're not communicating that well. Maybe you're taking on more work than you should. But it's also possible that like you aren't taking on more work than you should. You're taking on the work that is required to keep things running. There isn't anybody else there that could take that burden from you. Those are communications you need to have. And sometimes the best way to make that communication is say, hey, I'm taking vacation. And when it goes a little bit off the rails for a week, they're inevitably crabby because like you don't get into that situation when people have a great deal of forethought. But
yeah,
you come back, they get over their crabbiness and they recognize like, okay, actually, yeah, we do need to provide you some more support. You should be able to take time off. Just to
agreed.
come back to the offboarding thing, the way I've arrived at most of these like positions is I have been on the other end, right? Where I've wished that I could reach out to somebody. Like I do take advantage of them. I do try to learn things. We're all busy. Like none of us is perfect at this. And what I want when I'm in the other position is I want somebody that I can call and ask a question of, and they're not going to be like, well, you should have gotten from me when I was there. Like, okay, I appreciate that the company has treated us badly, but just trying to pay my bills, dude. Help me out. I want to behave in a way that
Father,
behaves that way.
you didn't call me when I was there. Don't think for a second it's going to be easy to call me and ask me a question about something.
Well, see, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the person that never called you. I'm talking about the.
Forgot something. You call me and ask me for it. Bad chance. I won't even answer the phone.
Yes.
Fair enough.
You blew it.
Yeah, it's like it kind of goes back to the meme of from the Dark Knight, where it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. If you can go on vacation, if you can't take a solid week off without the place burning to the ground, like, hello, McFly, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Something I'm not sure what, but something is wrong.
Well, it's
Yeah,
disrespect
like Chris said.
management too. They turn around and say, "All right, he's on vacation, but hey, let's just call him because he's the only guy we got." Bullshit. He's not the only guy. You're going to call him because you're lazy.
Yeah, and there's multiple things that can lead to that. One of them is management. One of them can be people hoarding information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've
true.
been through that too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't ever want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that's
I
hoarding.
don't
information.
either, because it gets you ugly. You're ugly on the other side because you know, it happens, and once you get the kick in the pants, you carry it with you. I don't forget shit. I hold a grudge forever. You know, it's just the way it is. You screwed me, and now you're calling me. Like I said, it goes into voicemail. I might even change the message so the next time you call, it'll be specific. Oh,
Well, yeah. If somebody screws you,
yeah.
I
Right.
mean, if somebody, I mean, like place wants to get rid of me and doesn't want the knowledge I got,
Right.
you give me a call in a week. That's a big number that I'm going to
Right.
want.
Absolutely.
There's none of this slow escalation.
Right.
It's-
No, the calculus
it-
changes if they dismiss you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a whole different game there.
I mean, smart companies offer you a severance package that you won't say no to that includes clauses about your availability to answer questions.
Yeah.
Honeywell did that with me.
That's a nice position to be in. I think that's a position of respect because they acknowledge the fact that you do have something that they're going to miss, and they just want the shoe in case they do have to call you. Hopefully they don't, but if they do, you're okay with it. And they want that up front. Unlike other places, you know, I can name dozens of them where
I mean,
I know it wasn't just me. It's just people that you work with can't hack being real.
Mike, I'll tell you, it's not a sign of respect from Honeywell. It's a sign of many, many painful lessons. They still don't respect you. They just have learned that they have to have this clause, and they've got so much money, they don't care. They've decided that it's cheaper to pay you that really sweet cash for a severance package than to continue to pay you your salary.
Yeah, it might be easy to hear to some people.
Yeah,
I mean,
a few hundred, you know, they pay you, you know, a few grand, 6-8 grand, whatever it is, to get you gone. That's peanuts.
There's places
$6,000.
Yeah, there's places you don't belong in, and as soon as you figure that out, you need to just get up and go. I mean, there's no reason to suffer out because it's a job or, you know, you got bills to pay or whatever. The market is just lucrative. For us, we can go anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I switched to Buffalo Trace. I saw you guys
Was that where you went? That
had the Glencairn glasses out. So
my glasses
Yep.
empty. So
Yeah, mine's empty too.
I'm now whether I'm switching to Long Branch or to Bowmore.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna stick with the same old fuel.
a friend of mine went to I think he went to Florida for something. A weekend with it or something with his kids or whatever. And then coming back, they drove, and he stopped by Jim Beam on the way back and picked up a case of Old Tub. So I got a couple bottles of Old Tub waiting for me.
So, I mean, that sounds exciting. You need to bring that by. Speaking of signs of respect, you can't see this because of my awful pixelization, but I got a lovely parting gift from a coworker of a
Bowmore 18.
Bowmore 18. So, like, company aside, and I don't think the company completely. I think the company thought I had value. I just don't think they understand how to express that in a modern work world. AKA,
No.
I don't think they know how to pay a reasonable salary.
Agreed.
Hopefully, they'll learn.
They're so used to not having to.
Right. Well, what I can assure you is that they're not going to learn with me.
And that's
More
nothing
than
wrong
fair.
with that.
I mean, especially the last, during the coming out of the pandemic stuff. I mean, shit. I mean, you fire me my first cup of coffee, I'll have
What
a new
was this?
job by lunch.
Oh,
Right. Absolutely.
Scotch?
I mean,
Okay. Apparently now I have scotch.
nice. I mean, the job
I
market's
think it was
pretty...
Ardbeg 10. It was the stuff in the front, according to my wife. So I think it was Ardbeg 10. Might be Oogydale. Not sure.
That's a good lady right there.
Yes.
Anyway, you were saying, Jesse.
Oh, I was just saying, I mean, I think if good engineers are hard to come by.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I think
good ops people.
But people
Yeah.
that think they're good engineers are plentiful.
Oh, plentiful. Yes. Plentiful.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you think you're good.
They're just falling out of the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, every day there's somebody that's signing up for a boot camp because they're gonna collect on that sweet IT money.
Yeah, I mean, it's ITT Tech all over again.
IT. What are you in? I'm in IT. Really?
Yeah, that's
700 jobs in that area, but that's good.
I've had a lot of conversations with developers over the years, and what I will say is, by being really candid about the work that I do and how I and my like-minded colleagues approach work, I think the vast majority of the developers that I've worked with in the last 4 years have really started to understand, like, hey, I actually can't do your job.
Yeah.
I do not have the mindset for it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't even want to try. I'm glad that you're here, and please don't leave me.
Well, it is a very different mindset than a developer.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I mean, I won't name names. However, there are, in a fairly recent engagement, people who have, if you have a, title of, network engineer or systems engineer, the people someone who have a senior in front of their network engineer title clearly does not deserve the senior, or even I would go so far as even network engineer title. Yes. And people, it's like, how I don't know what you how you got here, but you are not a senior
Anything.
that title. Senior anything. Yeah. It's
yeah, you guys
interesting.
hire some unique individuals.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting.
I heard you guys extended an offer to one of our previous coworkers.
Yep.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure how the team's going to manifest itself, but kind of separating ourselves out a little bit. I got to offload some of the networking stuff to the network team. It's just gotten to be too much, and we've taken on other. I won't say what publicly, but we've taken on other products to take responsibility for. So the scope has changed.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you guys are starting to staff up. Yeah, sometimes hire the
You
best
got to
people
go
in the
through a
world.
few. You got to pile them
Yeah.
there, weed through it. There's no reason why
Yeah.
you can't. That's why
Yeah, no,
people, they do jobs and they quit them because they realize they can't do it, or they want to see who the people are, and then they got the balls. They get up and they leave. Why suffer through it if it's not the right place?
Yeah, I mean, particularly in this kind of labor market, right? Like,
Yeah.
to your point, you can totally find, you can find a new position tomorrow, right now, in our line of work. It is not always that job market, though.
No, it's not.
Um,
I mean, but for talented individuals, it's more often that job market than it is for everyone else.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's based on at that point in a rough job market. If you're talented, you've got a better shot than somebody who has no
And
talent,
in
right?
addition to that, too, it is the things that you know how to do. I mean, the engineering title doesn't mean shit. Senior, hell, I wear my senior because I'm 65 years old. But if you know how to do things and you're not afraid to do them, because that's the market's like. They're looking for big words, and they're using them freely, and it's still next generation this, and stick away and get away from Cisco if you can do that, But if you know how to do the shit that they want, and you're a good conversationalist, you can get through it. You can get through the interview. You can end up on the site. And with me, I consulted for lots and lots of years. That first couple of days blow. They can't get your PC running. You don't even know what a bathroom is, right? You finally get acclimated, and then you learn how to do what they need you to do. Finds out it's nothing like the job description, but you know how to do stuff. You can figure it out. You can get along. And again, if you can't, you get up and you go. You don't have to tell them, you know what, I bit off more I can chew. You guys work too hard. I'm a lazy fuck. All that stuff. I have to say a word. You just go.
Yeah.
You don't owe nothing to anybody. There's no loyalty. If you sucked at what you did and you bullshitted them, they're going to toss you, right? Whereas,
Well, and that's the way it should be.
Right. And if you can't do the job after you figure it out, you should have the same freedom to say, hey, you know what, dude? I got to go. This job ain't for me. I got to go.
Yeah. Well, it's the problem that don't know that they are way over their heads.
Yeah.
And instead of being contractors or consultants, they got hired on and sold a line of bullshit and they bought it, and now you got the job and don't know how to do it.
You get rolled in a lot of places.
Interestingly enough, I've never been in that situation. I've never been I've been trepidatious about starting new jobs, and then I get there and I'm like, oh, apparently I do have this.
It's usually way easier than you think it would be.
Right. But I'll tell you what, up until maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I'm a competent technical guy, but I'm a systems guy, right? Like, we don't have any specialized skills, right? Like, there are way more of us than there are networking guys.
Emotion till it works.
Yes.
But Brian will tell you the skills I bring to the table, the things that make me really good at my job, you can't put them on a resume. You can't interview them.
Right.
No, you wouldn't even know how to.
You wouldn't know how to
enumerate these things. Yeah.
It's 3 months later when you are a hiring manager and go, wow, I'm really glad I hired that guy.
Yeah.
Because
he wasn't done any of the things that we thought we were hiring him for. He did all the things that we didn't even know we needed.
Right. Yep. So, and in a rough job market, the person that theoretically has the skills, they're getting hired before I am.
If they know
That's
how
just
to
the way it is.
If they don't interview good, it could be easy beansy. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm at the end of my career, kind of, sort of, so I can walk into a situation with an attitude. If the guy wants to be a jerk or thinks he's smarter or he can do something, what's the point? What are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
Right? How long did it take to move 10 meg over a 56K link? Dude, what do you got a 56K link for?
Yeah.
I had an interview once with a guy. So I put in my cover letter that I was the tech guy that would totally recommend a typewriter if that was the right solution. Because you know what? If you're filling out a multi-part form once a year, the right solution is a typewriter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but he took huge exception to this. So he decided he was going to come into my interview and like ask me questions and like show me up as like, you don't know what you're doing. And like, you ask me a question in an interview, I'm going to treat it as a legitimate question. He's like, oh, come on, I threw you a can of corn. I'm like, no, you proved I didn't say you proved you're an asshole, but he totally did. Like the other two people in that interview were like, what is going on?
I love an interview that you can terrorize like that, a manner in which you can shift it into your favor. You answer questions with the words you want them to lead the next question with. Next thing you know, they shut up because they don't want to talk no more because they don't know. It's like you bluffed them. You called out their shit. They don't know what you're holding in your hand. They're not willing to find out because they don't want to look stupid. So they shut up. You should drill a guy, turn him upside down, and shake everything out of his pockets. Oh, by the way, we got a VPN we want you to log into, and I want you to do these 10 things. Take as long as you think you need. Use the.
Oh, you want me to fix your shit?
Right.
Yes.
Even if you got to Google the answer, knock yourself out. Let's see if you can resolve the problem. Go.
I mean, my other favorite interview moment was when I was asked how I would handle a situation they had already admitted they were dealing with. It was a virus outbreak. And I laid out, like, in that interview, what my plan was to address their virus situation. They hired me and chose to start me 2 weeks later. And then they sat on their thumbs with a plan that somebody else had come up with for another week and a half. And finally, like, why isn't this dead yet? I'm like, because you haven't let me implement my plan. And you know what happened? When my plan, virus gone in a day. Woo! That was a nice one. But yeah, non-technical people.
I've had some cool interviews. I remember, I won't say who it was for, but I walked in and they just started putting in the 6500 series. They had the firewall blade and the ace and everything. And they fucked up some load balancing algorithms. And they were interviewing for the job, but in the meeting, they, about an hour into it, they finally, we're not going to hire this person because we got some restructuring going on. We're going to move some people around. And he said, well, give me the answer. Give me a question, Throws about a 25-page configuration of 6509, and then the ACE config, there was something going on. Let me look at it. And I started to laugh, and I picked it up, and I chucked it over the table. And he goes, what, you know the answer? I said, well, I really can't give that information because you're no longer going to hire me, so there's no reason to put my mind. I got nothing to prove here, no kudos, no nothing.
Yeah.
And the guy,
well, I fixed this in 30 seconds.
yeah, but he looked at me like he thought for sure I was just going to fix it for the hell of it, right? So I walked out of there. So the recruiter calls me back and says, hey, do you really know what was wrong with that? I says, yeah. He goes, why don't you send it to me? Fuck you. You're going to turn around and give my shit to these guys. Why don't you tell them guys to buck up $500 and I'll pop in and I'll fix it for them in about 10 minutes. And that was that. Yep. Right?
I mean, Mike, this is where I get shitty. It wouldn't have been $500. Like, you know what? They don't want to hire me. Fine.
Yeah.
Because tell them to write a check for $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd already spent dozens and dozens of hours trying to fix that. It doesn't matter that you can fix it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your pace should be commensurate with what kind of effort they think it should take, or have already sunk into it. Like, yeah, $5,000.
Fun times.
I'll fix it for you.
Well, as we're talking about good interviews, I had one time. This was probably the one I enjoyed the most, and that was I come into a room, suit and tie, all dressed up, doing the bullshit routine. First impression, guy's putting up a bunch of routers up there, and he's putting, he wants to know how long it takes, which one of these is the best path, and he drew it wrong. So I started erasing, and I drew it correctly, and he goes, "You need to take serious." I am serious. I said, "Here's something that you need to take. A shower. You smell like a fucking goat." I wouldn't work here for the last place on earth. Dude, you stink. And I walked out of the room. I didn't even get to the parking lot where I got the call, but it was like, what do you do, right? I didn't need the job, but it's like I wasn't going to go there.
No.
That was probably the best one, man, because it just came out. I couldn't hack the smell.
Mike, I'm totally gonna I'm gonna find a way to have you be like a prospective contractor, and I'm gonna
sit in the room quietly in the corner as they suffer through the interview, right? Because
I'm gonna sit in there like giggling. I'm gonna make sure that the person that's conducting the interview is the most stupid, ill-prepared, ill-considered person. Just I'm gonna record it, and we're gonna make millions on YouTube from the clips.
Shit all over
I keep threatening Jesse that I'm gonna apply for one of those jobs. Try to get through the phone screening, so then when it comes to the actual Zoom meeting, "Hi boys, what's up?"
Pop on the video and
yeah.
Hey.
What are you doing here? I'll apply for the job with my counter.
You're hired.
So, Brian, I want to circle back to your vacation question. How long do you think is appropriate to transition project work and active work to your colleagues before a vacation? Like, how much time should you have to put forward? Because there's inevitably some, right? Like, you can't.
If it takes you more than a week or two, something else is wrong.
Yeah, you should. Okay.
That's my view too.
Yeah, I mean, if it takes you 2 months to get somebody up to speed so that you can go on vacation, that's a management failure.
Like Jesse has nobody. He's got Corey, but Silgan's got Brian until he does something else. So when Brian's out of reach, what are you going to do, Jesse? Call Corey?
I don't know. Become a dentist.
They won't
Be
call
a good dentist.
They'll
Be a
call,
good dentist, Jesse.
We'll get a good
No.
team under you.
So
Beat 'em into shape.
yeah,
but that's
there's
exactly
no plan.
There's no plan.
There's no plan. Like I don't know how you.
Whose job is that plan?
Say again.
Whose job is it to come up with that plan?
It would be a directive of executive management in partnership with the people who know the product and environment the most.
I think you should come to I think you should come to your executiveship plan, because
We did. We whatever. Did.
Yeah. Confused look.
Great.
What
I'll tell you right now.
5-year plan? What?
Well, the problem is
we
did the part of the plan. All of a sudden, baseline of the 3 to 5 year portion of the plan are all of a sudden happening today, and that's not the plan. That's just bullshit. Can't do that.
Do you think that is that?
Yeah, you can have all the people you want. There's no plan. What is the plan?
Undirected resources are useless.
Yeah.
What is the plan?
Do you think that they're just coming late to the? I think they're just accidentally arrived at the first.
No, it wasn't broken. Never was.
Yeah.
20 years ago. Why do anything with it? And that
Well,
mindset
yeah,
is
it's
so
the
ingrained.
status quo
Yeah.
has worked for 25 years.
You
so
can't
why
break
But
change?
even but now they're trying to get, they're trying to do, they're saying the quiet part loud. Now that they've gotten a taste that they have some flexibility in how things did run for a long time, now they're doing something different but equally as destructive.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, well, now we built out a plan for the 1 to 3 year plan versus the 3 to 5 year, and oh well, we want some of that good 3 to 5 year goodness today, without thinking.
Well, you got to build the groundwork first.
You got to build all that groundwork to get there.
Yeah.
You
It
have the
doesn't-
money, but you
Yeah.
won't spend the money in the areas that are needed. It isn't
Well-
just people and throwing horsepower at the situation. You're not solving a problem and then rolling it across the board. You're looking at, Band-Aid, 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 Band-Aid forever. I mean, they've been doing it for so long. It's like you're still finding shit that I put in that never should have been put in.
Well, that's because every problem that needs to be solved gets solved in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Correct.
The
What's-
solution to that problem doesn't work into an overall plan.
Nope.
And sometimes it's completely contrary to the overall plan,
For sure.
Nothing
or
more
what
permanent.
should be the overall plan.
And
Yeah,
I'm
more permanent than a temporary solution.
yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a knee-jerk fix this one problem, no matter how much more difficult it makes life in the future. Who
Yeah.
cares about future me? Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Well, that just goes back to, well, now you're thinking like a sales guy.
Right. Bad sales guy. Yeah.
A bad
bad
sales
salesman.
guy, yeah.
I
So-
mean, kinda, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to bring this back to my favorite topic to talk about in IT in the last 2 years, SRE. One of the principles of SRE is don't make a short-term decision that's going to screw you over long-term.
Yes.
Like,
Well, and how do you
even-
do that without knowing what your long-term goals are?
Correct.
Yeah.
You have to have
Your-
long-term
your
goals.
your strategic roadmap needs to come. It needs to be directed. That directive needs to be set from executive management, from the top down, and pull all of that from the bottom up.
Well, it needs to come from executive management that's been properly informed of what. Because if they just pull something out of the back of a magazine they saw in the airport, it's going to be a fucking disaster. The newest thing from a tech conference that they went to,
Yeah.
no, it's going to be a disaster. No, they
that's
need to
fine,
speak
but-
with their technical leaders and
Yeah.
come up with that 5-year plan. But once they decide what it should be, that's what it should be.
kinda it.
Not that should never change, but you need to have some sort of plan in place. Maybe that end goal will change over time, but you at least need to know where you're pointed at.
Yeah, something greater
Right.
than zero. The answer is greater than zero. And
Like, what's
but the problem is the directive isn't there.
Right. The
No,
wrong.
it's
There's
a-
no interest. There's no
It's a basic.
how I cannot believe, especially as a multinational 8-9 figure company, where there's someone on the board of directors is, where's the technology roadmap? Hey,
Yeah.
Mr. IT director, what's your plan for the next 5 years? What are you doing? What's
I mean,
the plan?
at that level, there are no people on boards of directors that have really any kind of technical chops. Maybe one in 500 does, right?
I don't know.
So at that point, if they ask the question well, where's your technology roadmap? Oh, well, we've had great success with our standard practices so far, so we're going to keep doing that. We're going to invest in they get glad-handed into silence, and they don't have technical expertise to call bullshit.
That's old school.
You
you
probably are right. Yes, you probably are right.
I know people that sit on boards. They are not tech bright.
But
Yeah,
everybody knows the news about ransomware and
And
getting Also, our
Yep.
sources, everybody, you don't need to be a technical person to know that.
True.
Exists.
You don't have to be a technical person to know that ransomware is a thing, right? But you do have to be a technical person to be able to call bullshit when somebody says, "Oh yeah, we have a ransomware plan."
Yeah.
Okay,
And
let's see.
for the person that says
Let's see
we have a
it.
ransomware plan, in their head, they're like, "Yeah, we've got a ransomware plan because we're not really prone to ransomware. So like what we've been doing so far is good enough. Totally got a plan, cheaper than everybody else's. I'm a
when the
genius."
actual plan is freak out and throw money at whoever did it and try to
Because-
get your file back.
Because they don't have technical know-how.
Technically, that's a plan. It's not a good one.
Yes, technically that's a plan. Oh.
And this is why, again, like you have to understand that just like you wouldn't perform surgery on yourself, most people wouldn't replace their own engine. Like, hey, this is not your skill set. Get somebody in the room who has it. And like demonstrably so. Not just like, oh yeah, I've been in IT leadership for the last 40 years. I'm clearly an IT genius. No, you've been managing IT for 40 years. When's the last time you picked up some technical work?
Well, that board needs to feel comfortable with bringing in a third party, bring in a consultant,
Right.
a technical.
Learn the words. Get some of the.
I've
Hell,
said this
better
before.
yet,
Probably
get 3 of them
exactly,
and
and
show
I
them
think
all
that,
the same plan and just see what they have to say about it in a vacuum.
yeah, and that's the part I really think is the key. I've said it like a billion times, and if I'm the first person to say it, I'll say I coined the phrase. Writing these like the framework of where you're going to be in that 5-year plan is like writing the Constitution. There is no one person that is going to have their hands in everything. Bring everybody together. Get 2-3 third parties. Get everybody in the same room. The thing I hate most is the hearsay. Well, I had a conversation with so and so like 4 years ago, and they said this. Like that doesn't really help.
I will refine your concept for you. Bring them in not as consultants, but as auditors. Hire them to audit the plan so that they understand you're not getting any other work out of this. Your job as an auditor is to tell us whether or not this is valid. And if you're wrong, we can sue you.
That is
put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Tell me what we've done wrong. And that's all the work you're getting from us.
Yeah. Well, even just
we'll pay you a lot for it. Right.
Yeah.
Does our overall plan, does it pass a sanity test, or is somebody just blowing smoke up our asses?
Right. Does it meet a minimal set of industry standards?
Yeah. Because I wouldn't expect them to be an expert in all those fields. It's
most of them
not realistic, and
learn it on the
it would
golf
never happen.
But just think about what your average company pays for auditing in accounting every year.
A shit ton of
right?
money.
And then like what they're paying through. I mean, they don't know they're paying it, but they're paying it anyway when their insurance company audits them every 2 years, right? Like the amount of money they're paying for auditing on like really non-operational things is shocking. But what they should be paying for is auditing on operational things that really will bring the business to a halt.
I'd say what they also should be paying auditing on.
Sure. Like I agreed. I think that auditing for financial and high-level business practice stuff is absolutely appropriate. But like I've totally sat in audits with insurers about IT issues, and the auditor is just completely out of their depth. Like, oh, I have a checklist. You told me you had something for the checklist. Great. Check mark.
Like, ooh, that item, it's worded slightly different than it is on my checklist. That's a no.
Or the
Sorry.
one who did it. A real project manager actually stuck his nose into that part of the business? What?
Yeah.
The right people have to be in the room. It has to trigger. I mean, and again, it starts months in advance. You don't do a plan and just because 12 people are sitting around a table. 12 people have to have all last year's nightmares well groomed into their foreheads so that they can present them in a manner in which they're going to solve or understand how to solve going forward. Right?
Well, the way this kind of needs to work is it needs to be a directive from above. So at the executive level, direct goes down.
Yeah.
It
We want to
should
do
be
IP phones.
architects.
Go find out what IP phones are. Oh, we want to do telepresence. You really? So he's got to learn. He's got to get educated. Not go ask some. I won't go there.
Well, that executive should know. Well, we need a plan. So get the architects together. Say, I need a plan. The architects should then, between themselves, get a rough overview, and then they should be bringing in their engineers to kind of flesh that out to the level that is appropriate for that plan. It doesn't need to be nuts and bolts configuration level kind of stuff. It's kind of how do we flesh this out to give it a little bit of meat on the bones so it actually makes sense to the people that have to execute on that plan.
So let me throw something out there. Good executive statement is, hey, I've heard about IP phones. Is that something that would bring us benefit?
Yes.
And if so, what does it take, right? Yeah. Bad executive statement. Hey, I've heard IP phones are like the next big
I heard
thing.
Mitel
So
is
we're
awesome.
doing that tomorrow.
Yeah, I just signed a contract from whoever.
Right.
You're doing that now.
Right.
Like, as a leader, you should be asking more questions than giving mandates. And then once your questions are answered, provide people the direction and the backing to get stuff done.
Ideally, that's the model you want to follow, but there's 90%, at least the companies I work for, a good percentage, I won't say 90, a good percentage of them that don't have the infrastructure they need to have something in each position to accommodate that plan. What happens is we got a doofus, and you look to him and you ask him everything, and he'll tell you from where his knowledge comes from, and then you nod your head and you believe what he says. So unfortunately, by the time it finds its way, by the time it finds its way uphill, it's already been done, and there's no undo. Right? So is that the right thing to do? No. Is it the right?
No, that is absolutely no.
Who
Like
was in the room? Who was in the room? Our best buddy from Missouri.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Like. Yeah. It should. The executive should be asking the question. Hey, is this a thing we should be doing? Yeah. If it is, what direction should we go with it? Do some research. Get back to me in a month or two.
They don't want it. It's too easy. If they get their bonuses every year, the line is drawn. They start over next year, and it doesn't matter. If something goes wrong in the first quarter, they do what everybody else does. Let's adjust so that we don't have to cut heads.
So the thing is like that's true for some execs, right? But there are execs out there that are not that way. I assure you, like a Jeff Bezos.
Oh, sure there are.
Not that way. Like you don't get where those people. If you want to be that level exec, engage, learn a thing, trust but verify, right? Like you gotta know. You gotta know.
Yes.
Ultimately, when your company gets raked over the coals for half its yearly profit because of a ransomware attack, I assure you, your board of directors is going to become looking to you.
Sure, they did.
For the answers.
Yeah. How many, Jesse? How many times you guys? I mean, I don't know if you still run into it, but right up until the day I left, there was running into DCs that still had certain services shut down, and ransomware was still embedded on those servers.
I don't know that answer.
I bet you there's a dozen of them at least still there, untouched.
They all might have been shooken out by now.
Well, they might have isolated them, but they still never cleaned them up and did the needful, and they shouldn't be on the wire. They shouldn't be.
Well, I don't have 2 years ago though.
Yeah, I still probably the biggest thing that I have right now is I don't have a good way to know if a machine has a modern antivirus on it right now.
Yeah. Right.
I don't.
Patch.
I have no way of knowing if and we did find a server, this fairly recently that did not have modern antivirus on it. If it did, it was not reporting home. But right now, I have no way of knowing if a server or a computer, help desk unboxes a computer
That's the
from
plan that
Dell,
he's talking about.
and
There's a plan in
does
place.
it get antivirus or not? I have no way of knowing
Yeah.
that a computer comes online and it does
Company needs to
or
do that.
does not
Yeah, that's good shit.
have antivirus.
Yeah, part of the plan, right? And the steps of, how do you get it? How do you get it right? When are you going to do it? That'd be more important at this point because it's been going on for years. When do you plan on stabilizing that environment? The stable environment is key. Unless you're going to the cloud, then you want to know when you're going to do that. When?
Yeah, I mean, in the cloud, stability is key too.
Yeah. We
People that prioritize any ability in our line of work, in industry in general, drive me a little nuts. I get it. Businesses are addicted to new features or saving money or whatever it is. But if you want to save money, be stable.
Yeah. I mean, availability is one of the pillars of the security triad, right?
Yep. Availability, reliability.
Well, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So,
right.
Yeah. Nobody has gotten that. I don't think anybody got that on any of the interviews. I don't think anybody did. One guy did after I hinted towards it. Simple question, but whatever.
Yeah.
What are they? Availability, confidentiality, and
integrity.
Your mom.
Integrity.
See, it's the CIA triad. That's like page 2 of the CIS.
Well, see, that's how you know it's not real.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like CISSP, like page 2.
Yeah. Well,
I know it's like a
POS is like line 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. I said security triad into my Googles, and it came back with confidentiality, integrity, availability. What it doesn't say is pick 2.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the way that all
everything works?
All technical triangles work?
Pretty
pick
much.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick 2. Yeah.
If you get the one, you should be able to get the other way. Just go back to where you came from. It's good shit.
Yeah.
What is the plan? There is no plan.
Well,
The plan is there is no plan. So that means there is a
see,
plan.
that's not a plan. Not
But the
having
plan
a plan is not
Well,
a plan in itself.
You got an opportunity there, Jesse. You just create a plan for what you think you need to do. And then when they ask you, what do you think, you keep feeding them the plan.
Well, we did
that.
I did.
We're going to keep doing that.
I gave them the plan, and the 5-year portion of the plan showed up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's
so.
We don't want any of that other stuff that you need to be able to do the 5-year. We just want we want the end result.
Yeah.
So,
without any of the groundwork. We just want
what you
that
do,
now. Oh,
here's
and
what
it has
you do.
to be free.
Here's what you do. You figure out how you can do better, like substantially better for free. Right? Like because like fast, cheap, good, right? Like just throw out fast.
Yeah.
Cheap and good. And then figure out what that is. Send it to them at like 1 a.m, right? And then flood them with a bunch of other stuff so they never see it. And then every like 6 months when they're asking, well, what do we do next? You pick the next piece out of the plan. And then after like 3 years, I'm like, well, things are a lot better now. Like, what can we do more? Like, hey, let me show you something. This is, reply all to the email you originally sent and say, hey, I laid out this plan 3 years ago. And it turns out that as we've executed this plan successfully, things have gotten better. So why don't you suck it up and do the rest of this plan right now?
Well, that's a great point. I think
you could even pretend that you agreed to it 3 years ago, and this was your plan the whole time.
Right.
I don't care. Let's just keep going.
I am not interested in a victory lap at all.
No, it doesn't. It's not the victory lap you want. It's to beat them into submission before what gets exposed to their board of directors is that they didn't agree.
Well,
Jesse won't hurt him. The board of directors will never fire anybody because they're not that sharp. Otherwise, people should have been gone. Doofus should have been gone. The virus thing should have put an end to it. When he dropped the internet to his knees, when he took the Colo for the ride, the last stunt when he deleted all the different certifications and shit, all that stuff. Goodbye, anybody else. Oh, wait, he's a key person. Hold on now. All this stuff hurts, but I'm not afraid to see it. They can't fire me anymore, but it means something, right? If they just sat back and they thought about it, they would have already started working on a plan to have somebody that can assist them to overcome the things they can't do because there was no plan before. It's a bad plan now, and they have an opportunity. I hope somebody sees this video. I'll tell you what. It doesn't take a rocket science to tell you anything.
I think there was some earlier on where, to your point, Chris, where you send the email and you plant the little seed hidden off in the corner somewhere that nobody can see, and there was some of that like earlier on, and like when I got on, I was like, wow, this place like is screaming for some like basic shit. So I mean, like you just kind of you mold it in a way where it doesn't sound like the bad word that everybody doesn't want to hear.
Oh, I've totally done it. Like where I told somebody something that was a good idea that was counter to what they were thinking, knowing full well that they were going to yell and scream at me, right?
Yeah.
Completely disagree with me. But you don't do it in a way like, we got to do this now. You don't make it public. You have it personal between you and them. And you wait 3 months without touching it again. The number of times I've had those people come back to me and say, I had this great idea. And lo and behold, 3 months later, the great idea is the one that you put in their head that they just crapped all over, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not that person. I don't care. I just want the good idea in place.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. You're so brilliant.
Yeah.
And when it comes to review time, I'm like, well, what have you really contributed? You just show them the email where you'd originally sent it to them and they crapped all over it. Like, remember that great idea you had? Let me show you where that came from.
Yeah. Or you just do it and like for better or worse, I'm more of an ask for forgiveness.
Right. You do it, you make it work, right?
Do it.
Make it work, and then when they say, hey, it got better, something must have happened. Yeah, PFM, Jake. Right.
I don't know what I don't know what a brick means.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A brick is, Mike. It's
defined.
The floor is yours.
It's a term associated with the density of what's passing between your ears.
Fair enough. All right.
It's basically like
nothing there.
And what is there is just a bunch of sand. A brick, yes.
I know we gotta, it's unfortunate that Brian and Jesse and myself can continue to use these examples that all seem to share the same foundation. But it's not that much different in other places. I mean, I've been all over the place. And long-term, short-term,
theme is palatable.
Almost every place is the same.
Yeah, you can dig it up. You can find that kind of worthlessness in a lot of.
Yeah, no, like there's bad management all over the industry. But you know what? There's good management too. Like
Yeah.
I've worked for those people.
There's no
Nobody's
utopia
perfect.
in this world. The utopia doesn't exist.
No.
But as I mean, we're just regular engineer people, designer, whatever you want to call us, trying to do good work. So
we like to see the accomplishments at the end of the efforts. You have to succeed once in a while, and that's all it really takes. Some leaders know how to lead. Some leaders they go play golf and listen to what other people do lead, and then they want to lead like you did, and they don't know what to do to get there. They're going to take another course, go ask somebody else, what should I do? What should I do? I don't understand. Am I the problem? Yes. You know what, dude? Maybe.
Yeah, you probably are. If you have to ask that question, you probably are.
You know what?
Exactly. Yep.
The guys that take another course, or at least ask the question, they at least show the ability or the awareness that they want to improve, right? Like the first step is admitting you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Now you may not have the capacity to ever grow, but you're never going to grow unless you admit you need to.
Yeah. See, that's the difference between a younger person in his career. You bite your tongue, you just succeed. Exist, and you can get by your accomplishments. Where I'm at, I want to see the success continue, but I'm not going to wait forever for it. If I'm in a place and someone asks me a question, here's the answer. If you're going to go ask somebody else, that's good. I appreciate it. But if you're going to act on one or the other, is one thing. Not to act at all. Hey, you're going to hear it again and again and again. I'm going to drill it in your forehead. Don't ask next time. Forget it. Matter of fact, I'm done. I got to go. Wasting the time doing shit that doesn't matter is not. I can't do it anymore. I can't.
Right on. All right. Anything else you want to hit this evening?
Did we hit all the topics?
Every topic. This has been management theory by the OPSOOPS Origami crew.
Yeah.
What
would an executive director on a call right now say?
They'd equivocate a little bit. An honest one would be like, "But yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong, but you're bitter." Right?
Yeah.
They'd tell you that. They'd like you to be a little bit more team player. They'd tell you that, like, if you're a little softer, you'd get more compliance. And maybe that's true and maybe not. Good ones to tell you, yeah, if you're working in that organization's broken. And maybe...
But they would come back and say, well, I'm looking down at my quarterly bonus and the organization's not broken.
Right.
So
maybe their metrics are wrong then.
Well, so their quarterly bonus.
Well, but they would say, well, there's no fixing that.
Hey, you know what?
That's the way the world works.
I assure you, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos' quarterly bonus looks a whole lot better. And that is not an accident.
Yeah. I would put them in that they are probably unique in that they are public figures and so forth. And
well, but
Elon Musk is just a con artist, basically. So.
Sure, but he's a really good con artist.
Well, so that again, he every executive is looking.
Not all con artists are pulling down what Elon Musk is pulling down, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right.
I would put them in the
everything
exception
is if everything is a scale from 0 to 100, they're all the way up at the 100 level.
Yeah, they're at the 100 list. Yeah,
if you're an executive and your money is at the, if your money isn't close to the 100 level, it means you can do things better.
I would.
Dude makes electric cars.
Yeah, but anybody can put an electric motor in a car.
Right.
Yeah, and a bunch of people tried and a bunch of people failed. He did not fail.
Yeah, but he gained his he learned from their failures.
Yeah, but he didn't found the company though, right?
He wasn't the pioneer.
No, he wasn't the pioneer. He was just the the
was the
monorail
guy
guy who came along and sold the monorail.
technology and engineered it a little better, and then he got lucky, I think, in one area.
Being BASF is always a valid stance, right? Like BASF, they don't make anything new. They just make it slightly better. And they make a ton of money.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, your executive's going to look down on his bonus. If it's all about the dollars, the motivation is like, you could make more. And they'll go, but like, when? You say, well, not next year. You're going to have to spend some of your bonus next year to make it better. But I assure you that, like, year 2, and maybe not in year 2, but year 3, 4, and 5, what you lost in year 1 and 2, you will double and triple in the following years, because healthy companies make more money.
Yeah, you're not going to get the fuzzy math cleaned up, because what they're going to tell you is that they don't care about 5 years from now, because the company might be sold. They care about right now and how consistently right now works for them every year, 1 year at a time, 1 year at a time, 1 year at a time. And if they have to start over, and when that number hits the fan,
depends on the board and the exec.
They don't see the outages in them factories. They don't see the downtime. They don't see the percentage and the variables that consistently show $1 million a day going down the toilet, until 3 or 4 days go by and they're like, $4 million in a week. Oh, wait a second. What's that mean overall? We might have to work like a month of Saturdays and Sundays to make up for it, because that's the only mindset they have. So they can fix that fuzzy number, but they never go after the efficiency and the issues that cause that slowdown or that down.
Depends on the board and the executive, right?
Yeah.
Like,
We're
there
all
are absolutely those that, like,
place, so we know.
I'm just saying that, like, if you are in a place where it appears to be the case that they aren't listening, just make sure they're getting the right metrics. Maybe they are bad, right? And if they're bad, probably time to start looking, right? But maybe you're in a place where the wrong communication is had so far.
Yeah, and I don't know how IT always seems to be a cost center.
Yeah, right, your service.
My favorite lie.
It has to be a force multiplier.
Right.
Because
so
I don't know how to
principles
communicate that.
have modern accounting principles, as far as I'm concerned, have 2 fallacies. And they both boil down to the same thing, which is, at the end of the day, the dollars are all green, right? So cost center accounting, complete bullshit. You don't make money if you don't have facilities and infrastructure, right? Facilities and infrastructure, they're cost centers. Fun story. You can't sell product if you can't make money without spending money. So the idea that costs are a problem is a fallacy. Similarly, when you talk about, like, oh, we can't have payroll. Well, why? Well, like, that's the worst kind of way to spend money.
Really?
Why? Right? Like, right now, the paradigm is we prefer OPEX over CAPEX. Why?
Mm-hmm.
If you can do the same thing with CAPEX, you get to depreciate that. It costs you less every year to do it with
but
CAPEX.
we can throw $60,000 a month at a cloud service, or spend $500,000 on all the equipment to do that same job for 3 years.
Right.
We'd rather throw the $60,000 a month at the cloud service.
What it all boils down to is that they've been addicted to the idea that cost savings is the only way to become more profitable. And that's not true. Market share is the most reliable way to become more profitable. And if you want market share, you want to be a reliable producer. Yeah. And the idea that, like, hey, there's time value of money, there's lost opportunity cost. So if you've got to spend a bunch of money up front, there's a risk there. But are you planning to be open 3 years from now? Because if you are, like, sold or not, if you're planning to be open 3 years from now, you're better off spending the CAPEX. You're better off hiring the staff, the good staff. Sorry, my rant about accounting principles.
Problem is, a lot of places don't know what good staff looks like.
No.
Well, that's true.
They keep asking the same
They all get filtered out by HR that thinks they're
Right.
telling.
right? Because you can't shit on them because if you do, that's the thing that everything's filtered. Oh, you got a problem? Come to me. Don't talk to anybody. Just come to me. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit everything. I mean, we only had 2 topics, and we hit
We
about
did good.
12. So
I think we did great. So,
all right.
well, you all have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. You all as well. I'm going to be going to bed early. Still recovering from Jamaica and traveling, so.
Nice.
But,
Yeah.
talk to you all later. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
For both people that watched, thank you as well.
Thank you, son.
Yep. See you guys next week.
Peace.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers.